Yo, what's up? It's Someone That's Someone, and welcome back to another story mix. We got some classic Datura stories today. This belongs to the Solanaceae family, and is probably the most common one, containing the tropane alkaloids. These alkaloids are known for being highly toxic, to the point where Datura is considered poisonous and dangerous. As these alkaloids are anticholinergics, in high doses, not only will it cause major stress and complications for the body, but it can induce a state of delirium, a hallucinogenic state filled with confusion and a scrambled mind where you can't tell what's fake apart from reality. All kinds of things can pop up, from shadow people to hearing voices, smoking phantom cigarettes, insects, and all kinds of horrors. And this handful of stories shows what that can be like and more. You'll just see what. And before we get into this, I do want to note real quick, many of these are taken from various points in time, so the quality will vary. But I'm sure you'll enjoy this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Dosed by Kids. I am a 27-year-old, and I do a lot of venturing to the astral plane without the use of any drugs. I was looking for something to open my mind even more. I'm friends with the neighborhood teens, and they told me of a flower that was growing in a neighbor's yard that they boil and drink to get high. They told me I should try it, so I did. They showed up that night with 7 fully blossomed flowers they were calling angel trumpets. They warned me over and over that the dry cotton mouth that occurs is severe and to have plenty of water around. They boiled the flowers in about 3 cups of water. I added a shitload of sugar to it, filled a large mug with ice, and poured the elixir into it. It was very yellow, like piss. It tasted fine, with a weird aftertaste. They didn't want any for themselves, so I drank it down rather quickly. Upon finishing, they informed me that they had only 1 flower when they got high. I immediately started to freak. I ran to the PC, got online, and tried to research angel trumpets ASAP. Then it hit me. My body started feeling buzzy. It was almost numb. I started getting a very dry mouth. I mean, big time. So I tried to chug water. I tried to walk, but I kept crashing, and I mean crashing hard. It was as if something was swinging me around, throwing me into walls. I could not walk. I was falling over everything. I crashed for the last time in the middle of the floor and passed out. I had not hallucinated. I woke up in the AM to my alarm clock. I have to be at work. When I woke up, there were 5 mentally insane, deformed, mutated small people on my couch staring at me. They would not speak. They would hiss at me. I thought they were real. I went to get my shotgun, and they started to disappear. I saw a lady with no arms or legs, but it was my lamp. The hallucinations were crazy. I drank the potion down at about 10 p.m. that night. It was now 7 a.m., and I was seeing everything. I could go on and on about what I saw, but I feel it's irrelevant. I hallucinated in my car, driving to work. I work at a desk all day by a window. I hallucinated till around 3 p.m. that day. My eyes were dilated severely. They still are, and it's 3 days past. Oh yeah, I woke up in a puddle of blood. My hands and feet were cut, and I have a 50-cent piece-sized chunk out of the right side of my ass. Some sort of puncture. I have no idea how I cut myself. The best thing that came out of it is the fact that I know what is going to happen about 3 to 5 minutes in advance. I can see stupid things that are of no big meaning before they happen. The thoughts just appear in my head. Then they happen. I feel I had a major overdose and that I am lucky to be alive. My body is pretty torn up, and I have no recollection of how it happened. Also the day after, I cannot remember anything short term. That was annoying. And my dog eyed me down when I awoke. He seemed like he wanted to growl at me. He was acting very weird. Oh yeah, I had managed to get to the bathroom in the midst of being thrown around. I tried to puke, but nothing came up. I had thought that I was going insane that morning, but now 3 days passed and I feel fine. Be careful. Do not overdose like I did. Be careful and have plenty of water around, and do not do it alone. Possible remedy for overdose? First of all, I am writing this because I have witnessed something very interesting during a vacation trip to a virgin beach in the state of Michoacan, Mexico. The story is regarding properties from the orange tea leaves, which I don't know if they are known or unknown to most of the community on Irowood. The story happened like this. I was on my vacation on this semi-virgin beach in the state of Michoacan, Mexico, named Maruata. Several plants and drugs can be found here since many people come to this beach to experiment with them as there are unique ambient settings of a virgin beach. The drugs that can be found here are most commonly opium, marijuana, LSD, Datura, or tololache, as they called it by the inhabitants or natives from the beach, ecstasy, and others. We were hanging out with my girlfriend in the camping zone when she had to go to the bathroom at approximately 10 p.m. When she came back, she told me about this very weird guy that seemed to be on something very potent. She told me that he came up to her and started asking her what her name was, and after that, he told her, as if it was something very normal, to look at his burned feet. He showed her his feet, which was badly burned after stepping on a bonfire. He said some other nonsense, which I don't quite remember, and left. We thought that maybe he was on shrooms or something. At approximately 11 p.m., we were waiting for our food to be served by the locals at this table located in the camping zone, when we heard screams and saw a movement between all the other tents and saw this guy screaming, "Help me! He wants to kill me!" and stuff like that. He was coming up to me and my girlfriend, so I thought he was going to be aggressive towards me, since my girlfriend told me it was the same guy that tried to talk to her earlier. So I stood up, but before he reached our tables, he tripped and fell to the ground and tried to hide under a table. When he fell, he calmed down and remained silent. I came close to him and saw he was awake but silent. He was breathing extremely fast. When I touched his chest, I noticed his heart was beating very fast. His body was very hot too. He stayed just lying there with his eyes open for approximately 1 minute. I was asking him what he had taken. He didn't listen to me and started screaming again to help him, that someone was trying to kill him. He stood up and started running again, just to fall to the ground again. By this time, many of the people that were there were just trying to help him, asking him what he had taken, but he wouldn't say anything back. He was just screaming for help. And at one point, he started choking himself, grabbing his neck with his own hands and squeezing it. We stopped him from doing that and tried to calm him down. Some people suggested to drive him to the near hospital, which is located in the Navy base, which is 10 minutes away approximately, but we couldn't get him in the pickup truck, not even between 7 guys. He would just get away from us and go back to the floor. It was as if his body was in total drunkenness. Many locals were watching the whole thing, and most of them were saying that it looked like he had taken tololache, Datura, and we were saying how they've seen people take it before and never come back from the trip, staying with the effects for about a month. After an hour of this, a guy who was his friend came and told us that he didn't know what he had taken, besides some medicine for the burned foot, alcohol, and maybe LSD. He said his friend went to this island the night before and returned in a very weird state. Then the rest happened. While we didn't know what else to do, this older local woman came with a cup of some kind of tea and told us to give it to him. We asked what it was, and she said it was orange tea, orange leaves tea, which, as you all might know, is very common, at least in Mexico. It's something that we will all have in our houses to drink sometime. After all this preface, we come to the interesting part. We grabbed the guy on the floor, made him drink a little bit of the tea, and immediately, after 3 or 4 seconds from drinking the tea, he comes back. He stares at us and in a very scared, desperate voice tells us to help him, that he doesn't know what he took, that he remembers going to the island but don't remember what he took. Then after approximately 10 seconds, he goes back to his madness, screaming and stuff. We give him more tea and he comes back, again saying that he's not feeling right, that he doesn't know what he took, but that he needs help. To not make this story longer, his friend had to deal with this stuff all night long, giving him the tea, having this guy sleeping and waking up in terror. then going back to a sort of sleep, but every time he drank the tea, either he came back to reality or was able to sleep a little better. Next day, we walk by their tent and see the guy is feeling better, but still has a strange look, like he wasn't completely back. He looked worried, a little bit scared, confused. So that was the only and last time I saw him, but for sure, I'll never forget how this so commonly used tea brought him back every time he took it. I hope this story can be useful someday. If anyone has similar stories, please write them here. If anyone wants more details about the story or wants to talk to me, write to me at hatianek@hotmail.com. Okay, this is the end, and sorry for the orthography and grammar. I'm Mexican, so English is not my first language. Datura alcoholic tincture. 15 minutes in. I was feeling dizzy with slight nausea, basically what you would normally experience on the come up from alcohol intoxication. 30 minutes in. The dizziness, not much else. 45 minutes in. I am experiencing slight dryness of the throat, eyes, nasal passages, and mucous membranes. These are to be expected from delirium substances. 1 hour 15 minutes in. The dryness of mucous membranes is increasing in intensity now. This intense dryness is probably due to the alcohol's drying effects compounding with the tropan alkaloids. 1 hour 35 minutes in. I am experiencing greatly increased nausea, as well as some minor feelings of increased gravity. Again, this is to be expected from tropan alkaloids. 1 hour 53 minutes in. I am stricken with a vague feeling of paranoia. This is most likely from the anxiety-inducing effects of the Datura tropanes interacting with the depressant effects of the ethanol. Of course, I'm not particularly bothered by the feelings of impending doom because of my previous experience with delirium recreational substances, but it is greatly increased more than usual, perhaps as a result of the alcohol's serotonin-affecting effects. 2 hours 25 minutes in. I'm experiencing slight auditory hallucinations, voices and such. However, these are unlike voices normally heard on deliriums alone. The voices are understandable and make some semblance of sense. Of course, this is probably due to the alcohol decreasing the amount of activity in my neurological organ, which is the cause of the commonly reported effect of thinking fewer thoughts, but what thoughts you do think are clearer. The voices seem to be speaking phrases that make logical sense, like asking for names, favorite things, and other trivial questions. 3 hours 12 minutes in. I am now experiencing slight distortions, mostly laggy vision, akin to so-called lag on internet games. An example would be looking at flowing wood grain, but the grain keeps irregularly jumping between reversing, stopping, and flowing. 4 hours 45 minutes in. I am experiencing intense diplopia, exacerbated by extreme blurred vision. 5 hours 39 minutes in. I am starting to come down. Auditory hallucinations are gone, and I am experiencing intense painful nausea, likely from gastric disturbances caused by the ethanol. I lie down on the bed. 6 hours 32 minutes in. The gastric disturbances have subsided. I still have blurred vision on close objects, but diplopia is gone. My throat is still dry but starting to regain moisture little by little. 8 hours 45 minutes in. By this time, I am experiencing an intense headache and hangover. I've taken some aspirin and plan on taking a nap. 9 hours 51 minutes in. I seem to be feeling a bit more normal, but still have a dull ache in my forehead. I drink 2 glasses of water with a multivitamin and some choline tablets. 10 hours 18 minutes in. I am feeling much better. I feel this is enough to conclude this report. Conclusion. This concludes my report on the effects of the alcoholic beverage made from fermented datura cuttings with an unknown ratio of alcohol to tropanes. I will definitely have to find a way to decrease the amount of tropane alkaloids present in the final concoction. My dark escape. Datura report number 1. 32 seeds used in 24-hour period. Forward. I am not going into too much detail of what Datura is. All I will say is that it is a poisonous nightshade plant that can be used recreationally as a delirium drug. Safe dosages on this drug are very hard to figure out. In a way, it's safe to say that there are no safe dosages. This drug is basically a poison. In fact, throughout history, it has been used as a poison on numerous occasions. Why did I choose this drug, you might ask? It's simple. To escape reality. I hate this fucking world more than anything. Using recreational drugs is the only thing that helps me escape this world. So, that's exactly what I do. I found out about Datura from a YouTube video about some people's bad experiences with it. The word bad doesn't faze me in this case. I liked everything else I heard. Very intense hallucinations that can't be distinguished from reality. That's what I want. No, I was not ignorant. I knew very well that I could accidentally kill myself with the wrong dosage. But that didn't matter to me. It's a win-win whether I die or live. In my opinion, if I live, I disassociate from reality. If I die, I permanently separate myself from reality. No, this is not a suicide note. In fact, when I initially ordered the seeds, I began writing a Datura suicide note. I was very much prepared to die. I wanted to leave something behind for those who I believed cared about me. Things have changed. I remember I was talking to my Twitter friend who was going to distribute the note if I didn't respond to him in 3 days, and I told him I was going to take one of the doses. He asked if I had sent him the note yet. I replied, no, there's no need anymore. I have nothing left to say to anyone. I truly have no one left in this world that I want to say anything to. This writing isn't really meant to be distributed, at least to people I know. I just figured that any information I have on the drug can be useful to any other brave warriors who want to take it. Whether I live or die, other people need to see this, just to have more knowledge on a plant that is otherwise completely mysterious. Thursday, October 24th, around 2 p.m. Accidental intoxication. The plan was simple. Crush the seeds, mix them into chocolate milk, and drink. I took out 10 seeds from a packet and put them in a plastic bag. I attempted to crush them with a knife, both the blade and the handle. No luck. These seeds were very hard. I then put them in my grinder for CBD and weed and attempted to crush them with that. Some did get crushed, but others remained intact. I gave up, emptied them in a pot, and slowly began mixing them in chocolate syrup. I gradually would add in milk so the chocolate and milk would mix well. While doing so, I taste tested maybe 1 or 2 spoonfuls. After I finished, I poured the mixture in a cup for later consumption. Shortly after, I felt dizzy and disoriented. I realized a little bit after that I may have accidentally intoxicated myself with either holding the seeds with my bare hands or the few spoonfuls. I was supposed to go to class at 3:30, but realized I cannot in that current state. Thursday, October 24th, around 5 p.m., half a cup of chocolate milk, around 5 seeds. I invited over a few friends over to supervise me. They really weren't there for my safety though. They were there because I offered to order in food for them to eat. When they arrived, I ordered the food and drank half of the chocolate milk. I decided to drink only half because of how strong the intoxication from earlier was. The drunk-like feeling came back a little stronger, but nothing too major. Thursday, October 24th, around 8 p.m. Second half, a cup of chocolate milk, around 5 seeds. Same as earlier, I felt the drunk sensation again, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to hallucinate. The third friend left, and I was alone. I was ready to give up the night and try again next week with the remaining seeds. Thursday, October 24th, around 9:30 p.m. 10 seeds, chewed. I was bored, on my computer. At that point, I realized that there was no point in waiting for the next dose. I counted 10 seeds and threw them in my mouth. If memory is correct, they tasted like morning glory seeds. I can't explain that taste too well, with a hint of tobacco-type scent. It was disgusting. I washed it down with Gatorade. No drunk-like side effects this time. As I began lying in bed, my mouth became incredibly dry. I grew excited. I know what you're thinking. Why the fuck would that excite you? The answer is that is one of the common Datura side effects. I felt like it might have been working. I tried to stay hydrated before I went to sleep, but with no prevail. I just gave up and passed out around 1 a.m. 3 or so hours later, around 4, I woke up shivering with an extremely dry mouth, like my mouth had never been this dry before. I drank some water, but to no prevail again. I don't know what I dreamt about, but it had to be something very intense if I was shivering. I checked my phone, and I had received a call from Reptile, a whore who I decided to name after the NIN song, since she is the embodiment of the reptile. This was strange. The day before, I told her I wanted to permanently cut ties with her. I was pretty sure we both agreed to not be friends anymore. I then started thinking about how Datura's hallucinations are difficult to distinguish from reality. Could this have been a hallucination on a Datura trip? No, at least I don't think so. If it is, I could be tripping right now and be unaware of it. I texted her and said, "Is everything okay? It says you called an hour ago." I went back to sleep despite the dry mouth and shivering. I woke up a few more times after, but finally decided to get up around 11. I received a text back from her, and she said, "Yeah, it was an accident. Sorry." I felt a little reassured. That seemed a little more realistic, and it helped me realize I wasn't hallucinating. Anyway, my guess is she was changing my contact name to something bad and accidentally clicked call. I can't imagine anything else. Friday, October 25th, around 11 p.m. 12 seeds laced in CBD. I decided to give it a final shot. I really wanted to escape reality, and I was all out of LSD and shrooms. I put my last 12 seeds in my grinder, and I ground them up. Then I ground up some CBD. I emptied the grinder on my desk and mixed them with an old credit card. I put the mixture in a joint and went outside to smoke it. Upon returning, I felt kind of high, like I had just smoked weed. After an hour of that, I decided to up the ante. I poured some Everclear in a cup and mixed in some iced tea. I drank it. The effects of that were different than a regular drunk. I felt like my body was more in control, but my brain felt kind of scrambled. I then rolled up another CBD joint and smoked it outside. After a few hours, around 5, I crashed. I felt like utter shit. I felt so disoriented. It kind of reminded me of the time I took 3 LSD tabs with some alcohol. I guess mixing drugs can bring out any number of unpredictable effects. So I assumed that's what happened. Around 7, I had to go to Anime Club because I was the one responsible for bringing the Amazon Fire Stick, which we used to stream the anime. I was feeling a little better, so I figured the Datura was out of my system. Halfway through club, my heart started racing, and my vision was fading in and out. I was even wearing my glasses, but I was having trouble seeing at times. I was also starting to sweat. I decided to check my pulse, and I was doing around 160 heartbeats per minute. That's the kind of heart rate you get from a workout. Yet, I was sitting down doing absolutely nothing. We were supposed to watch only 3 episodes in club that day, and I was ready to bolt out and go back to my apartment. That was when the reptile made me play another episode. I briefly stepped out to breathe in the bathroom. My pupils were really dilated. I endured the rest of that episode and bolted out, around 9:30, stumbling as if I was drunk and clutching my chest. No one really asked me what was wrong, mainly because no one actually cares. It was sort of like a long anxiety attack, but it had no end. As I got outside, it was dark, but there were bright lights everywhere. Not only was my vision still fucking with me, but I found the bright lights extra disorienting. Occasionally, I would feel like I was being followed, but it was just my shadow. When I was walking, I had headphones on, and I was listening to music to calm down. I was startled by a loud noise. It was hard to make out what it was, but it sounded like either a car revving its engine or crashing. There was no car in sight. I usually don't get startled easily, but I was definitely scared. I finally made it back to my apartment around 10 p.m. I went to the bathroom, but not a whole lot came out. I do not think I was fully constipated. Then I sat down to write all of this. Datura Report Number 1, Conclusion. I still feel like crap, but not as bad. I am certainly not done with Datura. I ordered more seeds, even some dried up leaves. I want to get the full effects of it. Next time, I'm going to take a higher dosage. I don't care what happens to me. In fact, I am prepared for my next time using Datura to be my last. I have no regrets, and I have nothing left to say to anyone. I hope the next batch of Datura will come in the mail by next Thursday. That is my next planned dosage. Despite me only receiving the negative effects this time, this excites me. I see dealing with a disoriented mind and body as a fun challenge. A challenge I cannot wait to conquer. Even in death, I still have won. I am the ultimate winner. I am not mad. I am saner than I have ever been. I am not dead. I am more alive than I have ever been. I even have more perspective on those around me who I call friends. I am truly alone in this world, but I am fine with that. Want to know something? I only turned to drugs because I had nothing to look forward to in my life. I had nothing to hold on to. Things have changed. I am actually looking forward to my next Datura dosage because it's a new challenge for me to conquer. It's the only thing I have to hold on to now. I don't care if I die or live, but what I do care about is the journey that I take to decide my fate. 2 lives. Okay, this incident was the first and last time I tried Datura. 9:30. I successfully found the plant and plucked about 5 mature leaves and 2 of the spiky fruits. At about 9:45, I started brewing some tea with all the leaves and seeds. 10. I brewed the tea strong until it was dark black. I drank about half a mug, and that was it. 10:30. It hit me. Hard. Every time I stood up, it felt like an intense force of gravity was pulling me down. I was forced to sit back down. After this, I only remember specific bits and pieces. I lost complete track of time, and I was tripping and hallucinating intensely. I found myself falling in and out of reality and dreams. It felt as though I was living 2 lives. One incident happened where I got out of bed in my dream state and opened the bathroom door only to see my dad behind the sink adjusting some pipes. The thing is, my dad had left around 9 a.m. in the morning for work. Then I found myself going to the bathroom again in a semi-dream state, and I saw the bathroom flooding. I had done this without realizing what was happening. In another incident, I was smoking imaginary cigarettes, and when I awoke, I found myself holding a pack. I don't see how this happened. This is all I remember. It was as if I had gone through 2 days of my life in the span of 10 hours. I remember I was really stupid and acting weird for about 2 days after my trip. Note that during my trip, I would walk around semi-conscious, feeling as if I was awake, but still asleep in reality. I have to admit, though, that I felt very powerful for some reason, and I liked it. I remember hearing myself talk to people who weren't there. For instance, a good friend of mine, A, was standing by my bathroom, and I said, "What's up?" and waved to her. She waved back, but she was actually in Germany at that point in time. This is the strangest incident I remember. I got up out of bed and asked my dad if he wanted a drink. I go down to the kitchen, grab and bring up 2 beers and sit down on my chair in my room. I repeatedly tell my dad to take his drink when I saw him walking around, but he couldn't reply. Again, my dad had left at 9 a.m. in the morning. This was so strange. I actually laugh now when I think about it. Though I'm not personally eager to try Datura again, I have to say I underestimated its power. I now respect the drug, and one day I may give it another go, but with my friends and a sitter. A word of advice: if anyone is thinking of trying Datura, please go slow. Have a little and see how you feel. If you feel you need more, gradually increase the dosage. Always, always have a sitter. I know if I had, I wouldn't have done such stupid shit. I feel quite embarrassed now when I think of what I did. Anyways, go enjoy Datura, the holy drug. I consider this because it really changed me in a way I can't describe. My mind's playing tricks on me. First off, I would just like to say never, ever do this drug. The high was impossible to describe other than scary, feverish, and delirious. My brother showed us a plant one day and said he had read about it on this website. He told us that if you eat a pod of seeds, you get a trip similar to shrooms mixed with acid. Since I never tried acid and I never had mushrooms work on me, I was quite curious to try it, especially since it was free. Me and a few friends picked about 10 pods and went to my friend's house. His parents were gone to the cottage for a couple of weeks, so we decided it would be the perfect time. We had all sniffed a pill or two of E, and it wasn't really affecting me too much, so then started our adventure. We took the seeds out of 4 pods and crushed them in a mortar and pestle. We then boiled the seeds for about 20 minutes and put the seeds in water into a tea kettle and put 2 tea bags in to sit. We let it sit for about 10 minutes and the 4 of us prepared our first cup each. We added lemons to it since the seeds had a bitter taste. We drank 2 cups each, and then me and one friend split the 4 pods of seeds between the 2 of us. The E was just getting to the peak when I had finished the tea and went outside for a smoke. I got outside about 5 minutes after finishing the tea, and that's when we ate the seeds. In about 10 minutes after I'd finished my smoke, I started getting dizzy and feeling very frustrated. About 10 more minutes passed since I had consumed the actual seeds, and now I could not control my vision at all. Shadows and darker objects would blend into each other and everything seemed to move to the right. I was now beginning to hallucinate and started to get very scared. I was later told that I was curled up into a ball sitting on a chair on the front porch talking to myself and drooling. During this time, I remember talking to 5 bikers who came to my house looking for me and my friend to beat up. I was so scared, so I went into the fetal position and fell off the chair, and when I stood up, all my friends appeared out of nowhere. They weren't there when the bikers approached me, and they were asking if I felt the Datura yet. I suddenly felt a lot less alone, and somehow I was practically sober again. My vision returned to normal for the moment, and I could have a conversation without mumbling. I was asking my friends if they were feeling it yet, and they all said no except my friend who I split the seeds with. Everyone then went back inside except for me and my friend who was tripping, and I started to feel it again, but this time it was much more potent. I started to see squirrels and raccoons all over the front yard, and they seemed to have spotted me. They all stopped to look at me and began running at me. I again curled up into a ball and rolled around on the ground as they attacked me. When I noticed that I felt no pain, I looked up to see 4 cop cars stopping in front of the house. Scared that they saw me defending myself from imaginary animals, I lit up another cigarette and tried to play it cool. As I look up after sparking the smoke, the cops had disappeared and a dragon was floating in front of us. My friend jumped to his feet and screamed, "Look, they threw him off the balcony. That fat guy threw him off the balcony." He then looked at me with the most serious look on his face and said, "He's dead, man. We should call the cops." I don't know if this really happened, but he picked up his shoe and tried to dial 911. When nothing happened, he threw the shoe across the yard and ran into a bush and started crying. By now I was starting to realize that almost everything was an illusion, but it seemed so real I could not separate them from reality. A feeling of aloneness,
anxiety, as if I was claustrophobic and trapped in a small box, and severe restlessness. When I looked at the bush to see if my friend really ran off, and he hid there, I saw a little girl hung from a tree branch with blood coming out of her mouth. I turned around because I was pretty sure it wasn't real, and she was standing inches away from my face, screaming. I then started to cry and wanted to get off this drug as quickly as I could. As most other users of the Datura have noted, my mouth was really dry and my throat burned. I decided it was time to go inside where my friends could comfort me and try to help me get off my high. As I said before, I felt like I was being trapped in a really small place and my skin felt like it was burning and itching. I was in severe physical and mental discomfort. I remember dropping to my knees and praying to God to help me get off the drug. I drank about 5 cups of water simultaneously. I felt something wet on my feet and looked down to see myself standing in a pool of water. From my earlier experiences, I realized rationally thinking and turning away from what I was visualing would get rid of my hallucinations. I drank 1 more cup of water and decided to go watch TV and try and focus my attention on something real. As I was in the kitchen drinking the water, I could see all my friends sitting around the table, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I wandered to a secluded room and sat down on the couch and turned on the TV. I was now feeling more confident, but the anxiety and burning off my skin and mouth continued. I was watching Jerry Springer and I could hear muffled voices but couldn't understand what they were saying. I then started to feel very angry and frustrated, so I looked to see who was talking. As I looked over to the voices became clear and I was in a room filled with all my friends. They were yelling and rolling joints and I kept yelling as loud as I could, "Shut up! Shut up!" Then I looked towards the entrance of the room and my friend was doing cartwheels. I looked back to see if anyone else noticed my friend doing cartwheels, and the room was empty and the TV wasn't even on. I could clearly remember the episode of Jerry Springer, and I now was becoming very scared and uncomfortable. The next thing I know, I woke up to the sound of knocking on the window. I looked over and saw nothing, and then looked again, and 3 burnt faces simultaneously popped up to the window screaming. I then actually woke up in cold sweats and felt the sudden need to vomit. I tried to stand up but fell flat on my face. After putting all my energy into it, I got up and wandered to the washroom, bumping into every wall on the way there. My friends who were sober asked me if I was alright, and I tried to say yes, but I just started screaming in pain. I felt I was dying and I ran into the washroom. Every movement I made sent a rumbling effect throughout my whole body. I tried to throw up, but all I could do was cough and burp. I wanted to get the Datura out of my system, so I shoved my fingers into my throat trying to vomit. Nothing would work. I was crying and shaking, and my skin felt as if it was on fire. After 10 minutes, the nausea wore off and I went back to the couch I was sleeping on. Again, I felt as if I was going to vomit and reattempted my last mission to the washroom, but could not get myself to vomit. I then started punching myself in the head and knocking my head off walls, trying anything to make myself sleep. Nothing would work. I then vomited all over myself and passed out from the numbing in my brain. I woke up in heaven, flying through clouds and rainbows. I saw all my friends I was with above me looking down with very concerned faces. I felt as if it was a warning, telling me that I was almost on my deathbed and that I was messing with very dangerous substances that I was not educated on. As I floated around, my life was flashing through my mind like a movie right before you die. I saw my family at my funeral all crying and my friends as well. I was speaking to a voice that was telling me this is what will happen when you waste your life away. The voice said that this time I was lucky, but next time I won't be. I then was back floating through the rainbows and clouds and wish I could be there forever. I decided this wasn't the last time I tried Datura, since I cannot recall any of the events that had previously happened. But then I saw the concerned faces above me and reality set, and the faces were real. I was lying on the washroom floor with puke all over me, and my friend was screaming at me to wake up. I stumbled back to my bed and passed out, relieved that I was alive. All the illusions had now stopped, but the burning was still present. It felt as if my whole body was sunburnt and itchy. I woke up the next day and looked at my watch to see what time it was. All I could see was a blur. Now, sober enough to know what's real, I was truly frightened and believed I had gone blind. For the next 6 hours, I cannot read anything before 2 feet in front of me. Anything past that was perfectly clear. It has now been approximately a month since I did the Datura on the... It has now been approximately a month since I did the Datura, and the effects are still present. I still sometimes have trouble seeing, and in the dark I still see shadows move and blend into each other. I have very realistic dreams that are hard to distinguish from reality, and I may believe that some of my dreams were real. I now talk during my sleep because of the vividness of the dreams, and my skin is still sensitive. This is my experience on Datura, and I will get my friend to also write up his experience since he consumed Datura 4 days in a row straight after that night, against my wishes. I will elaborate him on the details, but his experience was much more unbelievable than mine.